Hey folks, welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. I hope you're doing well and staying safe and taking care of those closest to you. I appreciate you being here. As this episode is released, we are 2 days from the inauguration, and I am waiting to exhale this. I'm waiting for the collective breath of my country to exhale. That I feel like it's been held, especially, or at the bare minimum, the people around me that we've been holding for the last 4 years. So I'm looking forward to some change, because 2021. I tweeted this a while back. 2021 sort of feels like the after credit scene for 2020, that we're all just like, I waited for that. So I'm hoping that better days and good news are on the horizon and coming sooner rather than later. But I'm also really excited to share today's episode with you. My guest on the show today is comedian and podcaster Carolina Hidalgo. Carolina, I knew from my years and time in the New York comedy scene as a very funny comic. And I became aware of her new podcast, which is called No Dogs in Space, relatively recently, because the first season of that show covers several important punk rock bands in the 70s, 80s, and I particularly enjoyed the series of episodes that she and her co-host Marcus Parks did with on the Ramones. So there's a lot of great punk rock talk in this, as well as two comedians sharing the kind of war stories that happened from a lot of time spent making a dream come true. If you know what I mean. I feel like even if you are not a stand-up comic, I definitely feel like the idea of a lot of time spent laboring at a passion, or at least a career, is pretty universal. So I was really happy with the way this episode came out. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you guys. If you enjoy this podcast and know a friend who you think might be interested in the show as well, let them know. You guys are my best advocate for helping the show grow, so I appreciate it. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, and I normally don't plug this at the beginning of the show, but I will say I recorded and released a demo of a new song on my Patreon that you can, if you go to patreon.com/awesomedisaster, you can sign up and hear that early before anyone else does. That might be the only place it ever is. It might become a Bright Ugly song. I'm not sure, but if you want to hear it now, you can go to check out my Patreon. So thank you guys again for being here. And let's get into my chat with comedian and co-host of No Dogs in Space, Carolina Hidalgo.
Just so you know.
Perfect, because that's usually the trick. I do is like you just hit record and then it's like very natural flow. I like that approach to doing podcasts.
Okay, cool, very cool. Yeah, we're all set. Today I was working on No Dogs in Space. It was our season finale, and it was our last episode for, I guess, like the next month, and then we start the next part of our journey, or whatever.
Very cool. What band were you talking about? I imagine you're finishing up on a band.
Yeah. It was part 2 on the Screamers. They're a band. They were only around for a couple hours. Couple hours. What am I fucking talking about? They were around for a couple years in the late 70s, early 80s, and then they just kind of disappeared. But I don't know. They recorded some music that really sounds like it could have been made anytime this week, and it would have been new and amazing. And so we wanted to talk more about that and just like kind of bring it to light a little bit. And it was an interesting story overall. So that's why we were like, we got to tell people about this. So we did an hour and a half episode. So it was about 3 hours total talking about the Screamers. And I think it was well deserved, but yeah, it was fun. It's a lot of work though, but it was really fun to do. I don't know. This is what I like to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like when you really want to get into the weeds and make sure like you're documenting like not only every aspect of the people who created the band and the context around it. I can't wait to listen to that, because I've never heard of them, and I consider myself like an authority on, or not even authority, a knowledgeable person on punk rock, but really, whenever I hang out with like my friends with like mohawks or whatever, it's like you are not really punk. That I get that a lot, especially like those 70s punk, like punk in the 70s, because I feel like it was around for like, it was like a really short scream and then it went away for a while until
Yeah.
like the like mid 80s.
And then it became, yeah, it definitely did. I think punk kind of split into several different ways. One of them being like hardcore, and
Uh-huh.
then the other one going more in the pop side, which was what we see a lot. Well, we saw a lot growing up. I'm assuming we're
Yeah.
around the same age, so
Yeah,
we see
I
a lot of that on MTV and stuff like that.
yeah, I think so. I'll date myself without actually saying what my age is. So pop punk. My definition of punk was pop punk. Like Blink is my favorite band of all time, and then I found Green Day and Newfound Glory, and Drive Through Records, and then I would read interviews with those bands and find out about the Descendants or Black Flag, No Effects, and then I would listen to, and then eventually get down to X and the Damned, and well, the Queers are still around, but I put them in that same genre.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, yeah. Kind of same thing happened to me. I was what 11 years old when Green Day's Dookie came out.
Uh huh.
So yeah, just about, and that's all I listened to for like 7 years. And then
Mm-hmm.
later, finding out more about the other bands, of course. But back then, it does like when you're 11, you just get whatever you can get your hands on. You're
Oh
not really
yeah.
shopping or anything. So it took a while.
Exactly. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Maryland, so I literally, because I loved your episodes on the Ramones, I literally did not know who the Ramones were until Joey died, and they were talking about him on MTV. That's when I was like, oh, I should go get Road to Ruin and and all these self-titled albums. I will say though, listening to the Ramones piece, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this. There's a part of me that's kind of glad that Johnny was not alive during the Trump era
Oh
because
my God, you're
because
so right.
because I know that he would have ruined their music for me forever if he was alive.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely. I am so glad as well that someone is dead, which is weird, but it's true. You're right. It would have ruined everything. Uh, he just was I'm not saying not just like a contrarian. I think he was a true Republican in so many ways,
Hmm.
which is ironically why that band kind of worked on its own way, but because he was such a hard ass, but
Sure.
also the fact that he had the most twisted, messed up views ever. And luckily, this was a time before Twitter, so we kind of didn't have to see too much of that, unless you read his book. And oh my god,
Yeah, I haven't read his book. I don't care to I don't care to know what he thinks about lots of world events, but
but
god damn
luckily he
can he
keeps it
play
to the
guitar.
band.
Yeah, but man, like he could play like downstrokes, and the Ramones were like as fast as they were on record, like playing all downstrokes on guitar and bass. Um, Live they played even faster. It was crazy. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like clips of the Ramones live. Apparently their shows were they never played like hour-long sets really, but they would play like 3 times as fast than the record live.
I know. That's the most amazing part. I think it's probably I think a part of it is like first of all, people were used to seeing them go fast and hard and aggressive, of course, but also because when Dee Dee Ramone would do like the countdown of like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Hmm.
he didn't really think of it so much as like a tempo as a like we're just going to do this as fast as we can. Like I think they honestly like just taught themselves just to like go hard, work hard, and then just get out. Like it was almost a routine for them and
Yeah,
they did it well though. They really did. Even if they had the one shtick, it worked beautifully. And I'm still listening to Ramones music today,
same.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I will always go back to those songs. Like I saw Newfound Glory posted they I guess they were did a Ramones cover set, and Marky Ramone got to was filling in on drums for them at like Skate and Surf or something. I was like, how amazing is that? Because I mean, to me, Blitzkrieg Bop is like as classic of a rock song as like More Than a Feeling by Boston or A Horse with No Name. That's like in the pantheon of all time like classic songs.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. And it's also short enough and I mean it's in commercials, of course. It's
Hmm.
it's an anthem. People play it in arenas. It's a great karaoke song if you're
Uh-huh.
not a strong singer like I am.
Hmm.
Uh and everyone will rally behind you. It's an anthem.
Oh
I
yeah,
would I would say. Yeah.
absolutely. Did you ever hear the Rob Zombie version from the Ramones tribute album?
No.
That
No, I don't think I have.
it's crazy. Give that a listen. It is definitely a Rob Zombie version of that song. It's wild. Um
Okay. Yeah. I
uh
mean, I'm not a huge Rob Zombie fan. My husband is,
huh.
but I'm gonna take a listen because I respect Rob Zombie. I just his music. I mean, like I know anyone could say this about the Ramones, so I can't really. This is not a good argument against Rob Zombie's music whatsoever. But it sounds a lot of the same. I know it's a very weak argument, and it's an ignorant one, but that's how that's how an outsider looking in sees it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of there's a certain certain sounds like I think just grab certain people. Like certain people have like the gene for it. I was watching this YouTuber his name's Finn McKenty. He has a YouTube channel called the Punk Rock MBA, and he was dissecting why the band Dance Gavin Dance are so successful despite everything about them meaning they shouldn't, because they've had multiple lead singers. They play very technical, not easily accessible, like progressive rock, progressive like post metalcore. And one of the points he mentioned is that certain people have the Weenily gene, like meaning they get into like really like discordant like free jazz or like avant-garde metal, and that sort of like those sort of kind of weird things. Whereas and what gravitated to me when I started playing music, because I did music before I did comedy, was I wanted to hit like four chords on a guitar or bass, and I wanted to go like dunk, 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 dunk. Like that. That was
Yeah.
exciting to me.
Oh, that's cool. Do you play music now?
Yes, I'm in a like a garage rock stoner rock band. I play bass.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Oh,
yeah,
you should send me some stuff. I want to listen. I mean, as I said before, I'm not like I like music. I enjoy. I've been listening to it all my life, but I mean, I can't obviously give any critiques other than listening to it and enjoying it. So
yeah.
I promise that will be done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll send you our Bandcamp. We did like a 4 song demo in the before times, so I'll definitely send that to you. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so Green Day's Dookie. So that's influential for you. And where did you grow up, Carolina?
Oh, I grew up, well, usually the short answer is Mexico,
Uh
because
huh.
that's where I lived from when I was about 10 years old to 16 before I moved to the US. I
Mm-hmm.
moved around a lot my whole life. My dad's job took us one place to another
Mm-hmm.
because he was working in insurance and all that stuff.
Oh,
But
I was gonna say military.
oh no, it was the other one. It was he was insuring buildings like buildings, government buildings, resorts, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to go from one place to another, like Puerto Rico. We lived
Uh
for
huh.
a while, and we lived in Asia for a little bit. So, but we when we moved to Mexico, which is where I like met my like lifelong friends, and
Mm-hmm.
that I'm still
Like your
friends with to this
formative
day.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I picked up Green Day's Dookie, and I picked up Rancid's and Out Come the Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the beginning for me. That was like the very beginning of punk music being my favorite genre. It was never like the most knowledge. I was never the most knowledgeable about it. It
Mm-hmm.
was just the most entertaining thing to listen to and to get into, really.
Oh,
So,
I relate to that completely. Like I heard, like the first time I heard punk rock or I heard power chords, I was like instantly captivated. I was like, I want more of this. Where can I get more of it? How can I make these sounds? Oh, guitar and bass. Okay, I need to learn both of those instruments. I've been having lots of like, because I feel like punk ages you faster than other genres of music. I've been having lots of moments where like I've been interviewing bands and they'll cite like so like my starting points, what I think are my starting are like like kind of modern starting points are now like vintage to them. So like I'll give them like so I'll say like Blink and Newfound Glory, and then I'll get like Man Overboard and the story so far, and the Wonder Years, which is the shirt I'm wearing.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, that will happen. I mean,
Cycles.
you get all kinds of responses when it comes to it's the strangest. It's not the strangest actually. It's the most not predictable, but it's somewhere in the middle where you kind of always get a certain response when you talk about like when you started getting into something. When I know there are people in the past have been like, "Oh, you like Green Day?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was 11 when that came out. Like,
Hmm.
if you were 30, maybe it might have seemed a little silly to you, but when you're 11, this is the best thing you've ever heard.
Oh
And you
yeah.
know what? When I'm 30, I still love it anyways. I don't know if it has something to do with nostalgia or it's just very catchy. Um, but it was a perfect album for a kid who just kind of wanted to like be lazy and skip swim class after school and just hang out. It just made total sense. And the one secret song about masturbation, ooh, that was naughty.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
It was we were pushing boundaries. I always think about that Chris Rock joke where he's talking about his love of rap music and he's saying whatever music you were listening to around the time you started getting laid, you're gonna love for the rest of your life. So I always think about that joke when I think about like, and I also love that I feel like punk is very like punk became very universal. Like I was in India wearing a Blink 182 shirt and a guy working at the hotel I was at was like, I love that band. I was like, oh, I love them too. So was there like, were you aware of like any kind of like punk scene when you were growing up in Mexico? Were you like going to
When I was
shows and stuff?
Well, yeah, when I was a little bit older, about not that much older, I would say like 14, 15,
Mm-hmm.
there was definitely a punk scene, but it was more hardcore. And I wasn't huge into it. Remember, I was like 14, 15.
Yeah,
There was no way my parents would let me just go anywhere in Mexico out of all places. So
sure.
I wasn't able to go out too much, but once in a while, like with a big group of friends and one really cool parent, we were able to go see some band. I think we went to see the only band that came to Mexico at that time was Save Ferris. They had a popular song back then,
Uh-huh.
and so we got to go see them. And then a bunch of really cool Mexican bands, like a cool Mexican ska band played and opened for them. And we were like, "This is amazing. We want to get into this." And then I had to move to America. So I I missed
Uh-huh.
whatever scene that was going on. I was like barely like right there in the beginning of the age of where I could finally go out on my own.
Uh-huh.
And I missed it. But I know in Mexico it's huge. Hardcore is huge.
Yeah.
Punk is huge.
Yeah, it is.
Hip hop is as well. It's a very Hispanic thing
Mm-hmm.
uh, to be into all kinds of American and British music. It's what we love. I don't know. I can't help it. I'm
Uh-huh.
wearing a shirt by Café Tacuba, which is like
Mm-hmm.
they're like also huge. Like they came to Brooklyn and played, and it was packed. It was sold out. It's just it's still I don't know. It's just still a thing that we're not forgetting about this. We keep listening to it over and over again. We keep talking to our friends about it,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, totally.
and they show up for reunions and they make new albums and or they just you know post something on their Twitter and then we can see new content immediately. And these are all bands that were out there in the scene when we were kids, and now it's just you just have to go find their website. It's
Yeah.
kind of easier these days.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like I was also very thrilled to find out that Japan has an amazing like punk and rock scene. Like cuz after I discovered that there were punk bands kind of everywhere, like when I was able to start my wife and I were started traveling together, I went to I went to Japan. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if there's any Japanese punk bands." And the Tower Records, which is still in business in Japan, has like an entire aisle called labeled J-Punk, and I was so excited. Like it didn't go away. It just went overseas. Like it's fascinating to like see these sort of like regional approaches to this thing.
Oh, that's cool. Did you get to pick up any records in Japan at least?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I got like a giant stack. I got like a giant stack of this skate punk band called Secret Seven Line, which apparently they have opened for everybody who like any band that gets in America that gets big in Japan they play with. Another band I like they're on the more pop side is a band called Alternative Medicine, and another one? And then the big one over there, which is much more like traditional, skate punk. I think they were on Fat Records for a while. Is High Standard? They're huge.
Oh, wow.
They're
I did.
still together. They play one show a year. They sell out the Yomiuri Giants baseball stadium, and that's their one gig a year.
Wow. That's fun to do like a big event every year.
Yeah,
Hey, good for them.
yeah. You love to see. I love to see stuff like that because, like, punk to me is like the. It's like you're teaching yourself like a lot of life skills, even if you aren't aware that it's happening. And I certainly think in at least in the comedy scene in New York, there's a lot of those like punk rock DIY ethos that kind of sprang up out of necessity for wanting to get on stage, you know?
Oh yeah, I think it pretty much happened to the whole scene in some ways, and we see it now. I mean, with podcasts, of course, being the number one thing that, I mean, we all have one, which is
Uh-huh.
great. It's a great way to put out your work, especially during this time, like when you can't really go and do anything.
Yeah.
I think that really does work really well with that, as opposed to like maybe starting into comedy and then there's only a handful of people that you have to impress to get to the next level, and it seems a little crazy to have to do that. And you're still playing the game and you're trying, and then you're like, hey, why don't I just start a podcast? Why don't I invite my friends on to come
Yeah.
on, and then, and get this person and that person. And then next thing you know, this person has a podcast, and then you're busy every single day.
Yeah. And then every single day. I mean, I find this much more fun and much more rewarding like doing this talking to you right here. Or I think the last time I saw you might have been I might have been hosting a storytelling show you were on in the basement of the creek. I remember this because I remember checking the Argentina USA score for the Copa America because I was excited for the U.S. to lose to Messi. This is much more fun than trying to get five people to come to a 4 o'clock show at a comedy club. And then maybe getting a check spot in like 6 months and then like just continuously harassing the booker over email.
Yeah,
This is much more enjoyable than that.
that's really true. Doing stand up, the way we were all doing it back then, where it's like you're trying so hard to get so many spots, as many spots as you can, to gain as much experience as you can, to work on your skills and get better. But you're spending more time trying to get on stage than you really are working at them sometimes. That this just like kind of bypasses all of that, and all you do is work
Mm-hmm.
and get better and find other ways to promote your thing. But it's not as taxing as it once was, I guess. And that's exactly why I got into podcasting like 6-7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when I realized, like, oh, I'm going all the way to Newark, late at night, to go perform in front of five people.
Yeah.
And I get paid maybe a little bit of money, just
Mm-hmm.
enough to get home, and then that's it. Or I can do a podcast from home and have 1,000 people listen to it. Like, which
Yeah.
one is better?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of look at the numbers a little bit after a while.
Sure. And then maybe out of those like 1,000 people, it's like maybe I could do a couple shows and then maybe get like, I don't know, maybe like a couple hundred of those 1,000. Maybe they'll show up depending on the scale of it. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I vibe with that. So you're living in Mexico and then you move to America when you're a teenager. And where do you move?
Oh, I moved to Philadelphia. I finished high school there. I
Mm-hmm.
went to college there. Saw a lot of really fun shows.
Yeah.
I saw.
Philly's a great music
Oh
town.
yeah. Oh yeah. The Electric Factory, the TLA. There were so many places. I mean, almost every weekend we were going to check out shows constantly. And then you could drive to New York,
Mm-hmm.
for 2 hours to go to a festival if you wanted to. And then yeah, and then moving to New York made it even easier. So it was like it really was. I felt it was a huge difference from Mexico, being like, Alanis Morissette will come one time, this whole year, and then that's the only thing you get.
Mm-hmm.
until next year. I'm sure things are different. They probably became much more different later with the internet and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
back then it was very rare to have a band come to Mexico. It was not like, I mean, I didn't even know who the Dead Kennedys were, but apparently they were going there too, back in the day, and I
Oh, interesting.
missed all of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
well, I mean, I didn't know because I had my Green Day CD and my Rancid CD, and
Uh-huh.
then I think REM for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, REM is good for when you want to slow it down. Uh, Absolutely. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I had Blink. My other favorite band was my second favorite band I ever had was SR-71. They were and they were a big deal because I grew up in Maryland and they were from Baltimore, so I was hearing a band from Maryland on the radio and they're like, "Holy shit, it's possible."
oh, I remember them. They had that song.
She may not be Miss Right, but she'll do right now. That song.
Oh, that's the one. I thought it was like right here, right now. Is that the same one? Should we sing it together?
Oh,
Uh,
well, the chorus goes, why you always kick me when I'm
when
high.
hi. Yep,
Yeah,
yep. I remember that one.
yeah.
Yep.
I
I,
inter-
I made it just to America right in time for that one.
I loved them. I interviewed the lead singer last year, and it was like I cried after. I was very happy.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it was great. It was great. So, what shows did you go to in any memorable shows in Philadelphia? Because I remember seeing Billy Talent, Circus Survive, Rise Against, and Thursday at the Electric Factory in college, and that being a great show.
Oh, that's cool. I would have liked to see Thursday. I enjoyed Thursday. Um, I remember Andrew WK was awesome.
Oh
I
yeah, he seems
remember.
like a fun guy.
Oh yeah, I remember Bad Religion was great. Marilyn Manson put on a great show back in 2001.
Oh yeah, that was
Before
like
he was whatever he is now. And but that was really fun. Uh, I think I saw him twice that time. Went to Ozfest. That wasn't so much fun. Although Ozzy was very charming, his normal charming self. We couldn't understand a word he was saying.
uh
Whenever he made an announcement, he's like, "Don't forget to," and we're like,
right.
"We don't know what you're saying. Please get someone else to make the announcement."
Yeah, get Sharon to do that.
I know, please.
Was that when Ozzy was solo, or was that the one of the years Sabbath came back?
I think that must have been. I think it was just Ozzy.
Uh
I
huh.
think. It's hard to remember because I remember my parents dropping me off. I went with friends though,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. My parents didn't give me any money, and I didn't ask for any money, and so I almost passed out of dehydration because I didn't have any
Oof.
money.
Uh huh.
So all I remember was just Slipknot was exhausting, even though they seemed to put on a good show. But by then I was like heat stroke, and then
Right.
Ozzy went on, and all I remember is just Ozzy in there just singing, yeah, and just standing in one place, just with his arms up and
Uh huh.
down. And you know what? It was still a good show, but man, I couldn't wait to go home. At that point, it was like a 12-hour endeavor.
Y-
But
yeah.
I'm not a big Ozzy fan, but he impressed me that day.
Yeah, he is an incredible performer, and I give him credit for doing the amount of drugs that he did and being at the age he is, and still making new music and still performing. I give him credit for that. Slipknot, can't I can't wrap my head around the fact that they would do that high level in intensity of a show that they did, because I've seen like video of them from Ozfest where they're just going like so hard and wearing like the big jumpsuits and the mask. I don't know how you don't die doing a show like that.
I know that was the one part because I remember it being super hot, and I know everyone was hot. I know I'm sure they must have been hot, but somehow, I mean, the sun had gone down by then,
Uh huh.
and so it kind of made the show a little bit more exciting at the very least. And there's all the smoke machines were going everywhere and the lights, and then just their frenetic like playing
Uh
and
huh.
everything. I don't know how they did it. Maybe they had doubles, but whatever they did, they did a really good job. Even though I honestly cannot pinpoint like any, I can't name a single Slipknot song to save my life. But at least I know they put on an enjoyable show back in I think it was 2001
Hmm.
or 2000 when that when that
Yeah.
happened. So it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I remember that was kind of like the rise. I also remember like I just don't understand. Like, I know music festivals are great for bands because they make a lot of money, but that is not my favorite way to watch bands. Because like I remember going to Warp Tour and like just chugging like a gallon of water before to try to get through the day, wearing like the all white clothes, like just being very looking very lame. But I was there because I didn't want to pass out in the middle of a mosh pit.
Exactly. I know that's oh you're just always dirty and you're sweaty and sure you complain about I mean I always complained about it and especially at the times when I didn't have that money to actually pay for water because it was like $5.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed being there. I guess there's a sense of some sort of historical moments for you when you're younger when you're like it's good that I'm here. It's good I'm in the center of this around a bunch
Hmm.
of other people who like this kind of stuff I like. And that was important to me when I was a teenager to be
Yes.
around that and to be in the center of that.
I
Now, obviously, when you're older, it's okay to check it out from the bar.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of the same way. I relate to that. Okay, so you moved to New York, and when do you start doing comedy? Are you a fan of stand up like the whole time, or does that come when you're in college or later?
Oh, it was much later actually. I was 28 when I started. So I
Uh
actually
huh.
it was like the fifth thing I started doing in New York.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, yes, I
And
moved to New York to be a social worker. So
okay.
everything changed and then I wanted to be a chef and I did that for a while, so I had a lot of jobs or a lot of ideas of what I wanted to do.
Uh
And
huh.
then I started doing stand up and putting on my own shows and just doing whatever I could, just open mics or whatever, because I felt like it was just something I wanted to do because it just seemed like fun. That was it. There was really no end game, there was no plan.
Hmm.
I think at one point I did have a website that was the most professional I ever got. That lasted like maybe 2 years, but it was just really just for a lot of fun. And then the podcasting kind of fell into that just because I just thought it'd be fun to talk into a microphone
Uh huh.
and instead of go out and spend hours being out and you really end up spending more money in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. It is difficult. It is expensive to be a struggling comedian in New York. Not
Yes.
a lot of I think not a lot of people that would like watch Crashing on HBO would understand like the expenses of Subway, and you're probably eating out often because I only knew a handful of people that were like brown bagging like snacks to shows and mics. Um, you wanted to be a chef. I did not know this about you. What kind of chef were you going to be?
Oh, I was gonna be one of those. First, I wanted to be like a chef, like an important, like a Gordon Ramsay kind of
Uh
thing.
huh.
And then
Like a
I,
3-star Michelin starred kind of place.
yeah, I have all these crazy ideas. I'm living in New York. I don't want to be a social worker anymore, so I decided this is it for me. And I got a job as a pastry cook, and so I went down the pastry chefing route, I guess you could say, for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did really well, even though I'd never stepped in a kitchen really before. I knew how to cook like my own food, but I never knew
Uh
how to
huh.
cook for other people. I learned everything. And then I was offered a job at I remember at the London Hotel, like somewhere like it was a Gordon Ramsay restaurant, and I
Yes,
that was
I
when I
remember that
knew.
place.
Yeah, that's when I knew it was like, oh, okay, this is a turning point. I stick to this, and then I keep going forever, or I do this thing called comedy that I throw money at and just hang out and sometimes get drunk with my friends. I'm just gonna do the comedy thing. So that's why I totally quit doing the whole being a chef thing, even though I loved it while I did it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just I just decided like this is the comedy. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna change anymore. I remember promising because I was like 28 by then. So it's like you
Mm-hmm.
can't keep changing, Carolina. I mean, unless you really want to, I guess.
Right. You're
But
just kind of you kind of settled on like this is who I am. Because I feel like maybe a lot of our peers who started younger. I started when I was 23, and I was like in my like second to last semester of college. Like I started comparatively late compared to like Suba, who I think was doing mics when she was like 17 and like driving to neighboring
Yeah,
states
I
and stuff.
remember that. She was
Yeah,
so young.
yeah. I remember her telling me about that. God, this was years ago when she was on. But yeah, she would like. I think she grew up in like Pennsylvania, so she would like drive to Ohio, drive to other parts of Pennsylvania. Um, so yeah, I came to it. I came to it later also. So did you ever work at the London? Because I remember that restaurant. I never ate there, but I remember it being in the
I
city.
I interviewed there, and I was supposed to go in for like my last interview, and I didn't because that was the that was
Right.
my carried Sex in the City. Like I decided to go a different route. I don't know why I what decided. I mean, I still had a day job for another 10 years after that
Right.
anyways, until like what a couple of years ago, I guess. Coaching kids soccer,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much full time at that point. But I don't know, it just seemed like a fun thing to do. And that is very, I guess, as you were saying, like equating like punk to being to going out and trying to do stand-up comedy, being a
Mm-hmm.
DIY out of necessity in a lot of ways. One thing I do think a lot is that the reason why people did all these things, like put together shows and put out records and stuff, is only because they thought it was fun. There was no really real 5-year plan,
Yeah.
so to speak.
No, no, totally. I don't know. Like most of the like most successful punk, like there's successful punk bands after they've been around for like a long time, maybe. But most of the punks I know, like also know like a craft, like electrician or like they're in a union or something.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
worked with children.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Like, um, I'm not gonna name drop, but I was talking to another like big guy in a pretty big punk rock band about the like working class populism of punk rock, and I've always related to that sort of, and I feel like soccer has this also. Like these are things of the people that are also by the people. If that makes any sense at all.
oh yeah, absolutely, totally. It totally does. I mean, it's kind of my people's kind of thing.
Uh huh.
Being Colombian and everything, and soccer being the biggest thing in the world in so many ways. And it's because it's so simple. It's so simple. It's brilliant. And
Oh
it's a
yeah,
ball.
yeah.
That's it.
You do not get much more basic of an activity in in human interaction other than kicking a ball to back and forth. Maybe
Yeah.
throwing a ball back and forth, but I don't think yeah, kicking is super easy. Speaking of the to kind of draw the thing, did you ever see the documentary The Two Escobars?
Yes. Yes, I
Fascin-
did.
Fascinating. Like that
Wow.
World Cup team, oh my god. That
Yeah,
story
I
is
mean,
insane.
I kind of knew a little bit about it because my mom would talk about it a little bit about what went down and everything,
Yeah.
from her perspective, since she was born and raised in Colombia. And obviously, he is not a liked person whatsoever. Would never go down in history as one.
Mhm.
But I do remember hearing all about it and being like, well, he did give back to the community, which is why it was so much harder. It's a crazy story. I want to watch that again. It's been a while, but
Mhm.
it is it's very realistic, unfortunately, what happens in small towns in Latin America.
Yeah.
It's so much. I mean, that's also another thing, especially living in Mexico and in Colombia and things like that. It's like, well, if you can't afford war, what you're going to do is that you're going to create a game where there's two teams, and then that way the fans
Right.
of two teams can have their own little version of war by coming up with chants and all those
Uh-huh.
kinds of things. And sometimes there'll be fistfights and all that stuff, but then everyone gets drunk and goes home. It's the economical way to have your own war, I guess, so
I
to
guess so.
speak.
You can kind of like it's like open mic war almost. It's like
Yes.
everyone can still go home at the end. Yeah, like oh man, I once made the mistake in Spain of wearing the away team's jersey to a match, never doing that again.
Oh
Uh
no, what happened? Are you okay?
oh, I was eventually okay, but it was very shaken. I made the mistake. This was before I really had started paying attention to soccer, so I didn't really know like who like the heated rivals were. So
Oh
I
yeah.
wore a Barcelona jersey to Espanyol Stadium, and almost got it physically ripped off of my body. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, got called a Barca puta. Um, not okay to say. And I got dirt kicked on me. I got like spit at. It also didn't help that they lost really badly.
Oh my God.
Um, but I
What
was
did you have to say about that?
well. I didn't have much to say. I was just saying no habla español,
Oh
señor.
yeah, because there's one of you. I understand. It would not have worked out.
Yeah. So basically, just like we after the game ducked down an alley, and we ran into some random dude on the train going back. That his camera was red. He was a guy. He was from Israel, and because his camera was red, they had tried to break his camera. Um, so if I ever do go to a soccer game in Latin America, I'm just gonna wear whatever the national jersey of whatever country I'm in. Just be like, just here, just living. Please don't beat me up. Please don't beat me up. Because I've seen like when I was in Argentina and I went to the La Bombonera, the chocolate box, that stadium, and they have like a giant electrified fence because I guess after goals people would just climb it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me. It's part of the fun, I guess. I
I,
don't know. There's no excuse for that, but yeah, I'm glad they had electrified fences at least. Did that deter people from doing that?
I think on that side, yes, because that's when it was. I guess that's where the Boca Juniors play, and I guess them and River Plate don't get along very well. So I saw some like derby footage of that, and it looks like uh, it sort of looks it makes the Capitol building siege look very tame.
Oh God.
It was crazy, but very amusing. Okay, so you decide like comedy is a thing. So you ran a show for a while as well. Again, those like that DIY spirit, right?
Yeah, because I remember I started out by handing out flyers. Where
Broadway
was
Comedy
I?
Club.
Yeah, no, for Underground Comedy Club, which is now called West Side. Um,
Yes, I remember Underground Comedy Club. That was like the first place I like that ever said you're past to me. I remember that place.
yes, that place. Yeah, I mean, that place it was all the way uptown.
Hmm.
And for 8 months, every weekend, I would hand out flyers for 2 hours for 6 minutes of time, usually around Check Spot area or whatever they call Check Spot
Yeah.
there because it's a little bit different. And then I think the guy who was running the show, I think he just left, took the show somewhere else. And I went there because thinking like, oh, it's a regular Friday, I'll get there early and get something to eat. And then I heard, oh, there's no show. The guy left or something. And so I went up to the manager and said, hey, I know the ins and outs. I'll just run the show. And so the guy said, sure. And I did that for years. So I kind of promoted myself, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Like that sort of like 50s idea of like, well, the way you get a job is you just walk in and you ask for one. Like
it really did happen that way. Uh,
it's amazing. I love that.
and that was it. I mean, I got my friend Adam to help out, and then eventually I made him just a full partner just because he was doing so much,
Hmm.
and it was just the two of us for a long time until I think until they started realize oh, and then until we moved to Stand Up New York, I think, and then they started realizing. I mean, I'm not blaming them so much, but they started realizing like all these things that we could do to fill up a room, and they're like, "Oh, we could just cut out Carolina and Adam, the middleman, and just do it ourselves." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Wow." When I figured that out, I wasn't even mad because I'm like, wow, it took you so long to figure this out.
Right.
At least I got a good few years in there.
Yeah. It's
Like, what are you going to do? I mean, they're a business. I mean, we weren't
mhm.
friends or anything.
Yeah,
So,
totally. They live or die by how many people go in and buy drinks and how long they stay and do that. Yeah, so I'm never mad at the clubs for that kind of stuff. I'm just always thankful to, like, I remember I would just ever like the first time I ever got to do a check spot at Stand Up New York, I was just like happy to be on that stage because these are like places that I saw in like the Jerry Seinfeld documentary. Like I'm on the same stage. It's like
yeah.
it's like real
I
if that makes
know
any
it, and
sense.
it's so comfortable. It's so it. That's how it felt. It felt very. it just didn't feel so as intimidating as it would on TV or something. When you walk in there, and you're like, oh, this is you just walk up there. Oh, okay, yeah, I could do this. Of course, a lot of the shows were very late or early, or I would do like a kids camp, so it wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
prime time. I wasn't opening for Kevin Hart or anything,
Yeah.
but but it's still the same stage, like you said.
Uh-huh.
So doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It still counts.
Yeah, 100%. There's something about like doing like and doing comedy in a place that has comedy in the name of the business. Because I feel like and comparatively, I feel like bands can kind of exist and like, oh, okay, you're a band even if you're not playing like arenas or clubs. Like you're still like you're still a band. I see how it fits together. But I feel like I feel like I feel like when you're a comedian in a place that has comedy in the name, there's a little bit more of a you're a real comedian. I've always had that sort of complex. I don't even think that many people think like that anymore, though.
Well, maybe I think a part of it has to do with the fact that the audience will give it give it a little bit more like gravitas, I guess, because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to a comedy club. I'm going to see a comedian. Everyone who goes on that stage is a comedian, whether or not that person just started or they've been there forever.
Uh huh.
So I think it kind of gives it a little bit of an even uniform of like, as soon as you get up there, you don't have to prove yourself so hard as you would at some kind of ambush bar show where they have the the
Yeah.
TV on in the back.
Uh huh.
Like they're ready to give you every chance possible, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what makes it more comfortable, and it makes it more conducive for comedy, and it makes everyone more comfortable and happier, and the comedian as well. So yeah, I can see how it gives it more of a kind of a feeling of a more professional kind of like setting, I guess. Even if we're all still in the same room. It's just a room, but it's still, there's a higher bar there.
Oh, totally. And then part of it, I think the other bar is financial. Like there's money involved. Like maybe you probably you paid money for a ticket and then you spent money on drinks. I feel like that also adds to it as well because obviously like you're gonna do like you're not gonna do like one of those like oh let's see what else do I have kind of sets. You're gonna go up and try to rock it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do your best stuff. Or if anything, you could maybe do some new stuff, but if it sucks, you run to the best stuff. It's always like a fun little game of trying to of trying to just show the best part of yourself. Uh
Mm-hmm.
I like to think. I don't know. It hasn't always worked out every time I stepped on stage, obviously,
Uh huh.
but for the most part, at least you're there on equal footing, and the audience is ready. And even if they don't like you, or maybe kind of like you a little bit at the end, it's like, well, they gave me a chance, an honest chance.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
So much more fair than I remember one time I was booked for a show, not a real show. It was like it was a movie festival, and they asked me to do comedy outside in a courtyard between screenings when people really wanted to talk and mingle. And
Oh no.
that was just me yelling at people while they were trying to. I mean, I wasn't like actively yelling and insulting anyone, but I was
Uh
like
huh.
trying to talk over them, and it just made things
Mm-hmm.
worse. And doing anything at that level, it just, yeah, it's hard. I mean, maybe I'm just not the right person for that. Maybe you need
Mm-hmm.
more of a hype man for that kind of thing.
Sure.
Uh, it really depends on the situation. And as I said before, sometimes it's all about being in the best possible situation to do the best job you can, especially if like someone like me who's like very awkward a lot, to try to overcome that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's so much harder in a very comfortable setting, that when they place you in somewhere like that, like, oh, it's okay, she's a comedian, she's just gonna make people laugh
Right.
magically for whoever. I mean, even if you guys have nothing in common with her whatsoever.
Exactly. I remember, yeah, because I remember when starting in Baltimore several times when, like the booked open mic with a paid headliner show that I would do on Sundays would coincide with a Ravens game, and that was fraught with peril frequently. And then I remember one time like doing a show while the Oscars were on. I remember I have a very clear memory of doing a set right after Monique won an Oscar for Precious.
You remember exactly where you were.
Yeah, like that very specific memory because I remember saying I'm pretty sure I managed to say something that didn't immediately dig me into hole, but I definitely remember mentioning it. But then to go up and try to do like very like kind of like surreal one-liners, which is what I was mostly doing at the time, is like just not gonna work out as good as it could.
That happened to me too. And I was hosting a show at a comedy club, and that was the time when um, Osama bin Laden was captured and killed, and it was on the news
Oh my
all
god.
over,
Uh
and
huh.
it came out as breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, "Should I tell people this is big news?" And I forget who egged me on. Obviously someone who thought it'd be funny said, "Yes, you should." And so I went on stage and said, "Oh, you guys, you're not going to believe this, but Osama bin Laden has been found and now he is dead." And there was just silence because they thought it was a bit that I
Right.
was trying to do.
Oh
And they're
my.
like, "Where's the punchline?" And I'm like, "No, that's the
I'm
news
telling you.
of today, and I'm never doing this again. I'm sorry for for interrupting this show. Never interrupt a show, okay? Never, no matter what, unless the building's on fire. That's the only advice I can give anyone, because it was just a bunch of blank stares of, and then the whole time I was like, I'm just gonna bring people up from now on. That's it. And I'm gonna be that weird girl with that Osama joke forever.
Oh, you were hosting that show?
Yes. So I was there for the
Oh,
next hour.
oh, so they had to see you a lot. Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, got it, Bin Laden. Okay.
And then they check their phones afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, that clearly unfunny girl was trying to tell us something," And so there, that will happen.
It
But as
certainly will.
far as sports goes, the only thing that actually ever worked for me is when I remember at a bar, the manager did not want to turn off a basketball game
Hmm.
because he was like, "People are here for the basketball game, but we want to have a show." So I ended up just calling the basketball game the whole time throughout my set, and
Uh
be like,
huh.
"And then the big guy's gonna give it to the little guy, and then, oh no, he did it! Oh, that's." And I obviously don't know anything about basketball, so
Uh
if
huh.
anything, my sports announcer voice did much better in that time than it would have with actually giving, like, real, real hard hitting news.
Yeah, it is amazing to me the kind of things that we all put ourselves through this for the sake of this dream. This
Yes.
um it really amazes me because I feel like, I mean, I'm sure this occurs in other fields as well, but it's not like it's not like accountants ever have to do a show where if you don't get the numbers right, you get booed off stage. And
Yeah.
you know there's no accounting at the Apollo or you have to, or it's like, oh, or okay, I'm gonna do a 2 a.m. I'm gonna go do a 2 a.m. audit and see if my formulas work.
It is a very risky job. It may never work out, or it might just work out perfectly, or you might just end up exactly where you want to be. I mean, it is a lot of it's a lot of gamble there. Or you could just do it for fun, which is also a great way to, like, look at it, I guess, because in that case you not to say you don't have to be ambitious about it, but in that case you could just be like, "You know what, I did my best, and I had a lot of fun doing it."
But yeah, that's how I always looked about it. I always looked at it as like I started doing it because it was fun, and I continued to do it because that it was fun. And then as I got older and as my feelings towards like the scene or the various like dynamics within it, I kept adjusting to keep it fun. That's
Yeah.
because otherwise, I if I'm not doing this because if you're not doing something, if I wasn't doing it because I was enjoying it, I might as well have never moved, and I could still be in Maryland at my job at Target. Um, why I would have just stayed there and not put myself through all of the sacrifice and weirdness.
Yeah, it is a lot of sacrifice. You're right. And it is a lot of weirdness. You're totally right about both of those fronts, by the way. Those are totally right. It is very much, and I do agree with you. It is very much a bubble, which is why I kind of stepped away a little bit from stand up. Although I'm excited to go back and do it again sometime, but
Mm-hmm.
not in the same capacity as I used to. Uh, because you fall into this bubble and you're like, I don't know what to joke about because this is all I do. And I'm not going to my friends' weddings. I'm not going on vacation because I'm here all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not living a well-rounded life, how can I possibly be relatable? And that's when I decided, like, okay, I can't, run into the same circles over and over again anymore. It's some people are really cool. Some people are like, okay. I don't want to fall into this tiny little world anymore. I want to visit sometimes. I want to visit
Yeah.
other places sometimes too. And I think that's I think if anything that could be healthier. So yeah, you're right. It is healthier in that sense, and also that goes with any scene, really. If
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, I mean, the ballet scenesters or musicians and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's good.
Oh yeah. Especially like uh same way. There's definitely those like this isn't real metal, this isn't real punk kind of people that is like, do you even like being here?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you do. Maybe you would be better served doing being somewhere else. And then how did you get started in podcasting? Did you do a podcast before the one you're doing now?
Oh, before No Dogs in Space? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I started out because I think yeah, I said it earlier. I just wanted to talk some more. I finished doing a show. I'd go home and be like, I still want to work some more, but I don't want to
Hmm.
go back out there. I
Yeah.
want to do a podcast. So I remember putting together the first podcast out of my living room with another co-host, and we did one for a while, and it worked out fine, but it took forever because I just didn't know how to work like anything,
Uh huh.
like the microphones. Like I think some of our episodes are totally unlistenable. I don't even think they're on the internet anymore.
Uh huh.
They were pretty terrible. I mean, but that's how you start. You always start being terrible,
Yeah.
and you're talking, and you think you're so smart and so clever,
Hmm.
and everything, and it's a good starting point. It really was. It was a good starting point in that sense, and then I started moving towards doing more podcasting, like moving towards other projects, like different kinds. I did a Spanish language one for a while,
Uh huh.
that lasted about a year, and then I did movie sign with the Mads for about 4.5 years with my friends Frank and Trace, who are the guys from Mystery Science Theater,
Uh huh.
the original cast and stuff, and like we did it for a while until COVID kind of,
Uh
the
huh.
quarantine kind of messed that up, and then we just couldn't continue doing it anymore. And then actually we were just asked to like try it again, but we can't anymore, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Just there's just too much stuff
Yeah.
going on, and they have so much streaming that they have to do.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
this was with TV's Frank from Mystery
yeah.
Science. Oh, that's cool. I would love to talk to that guy.
Oh, he would totally do the show. Oh yeah.
Oh,
You should.
that's awesome.
I'll give him your email. I mean, I'll give you his email if you want, or whichever. I'll give both your emails if you'd like. He would totally come and talk to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you get to work with him because that sounds like a fun idea. And then, so you're doing this show, and then it kind of stops. I don't know if Marcus would know me. He might know me like from being around the creek, but
Oh
we
yeah,
never
he
spent.
does remember you because I mentioned you the other day at lunch. It's like, I'm doing this podcast with Will Carey. He's like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. How's he doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna talk to him on Thursday. I'll tell you.
Oh well, you can tell him I said hi, and I'm doing great. Things are going
I'll
well.
let him know.
Cool. And then because he is like, because to me he's like one of the like big people of New York City podcasting, like with Last House on the Left, and now and then the whole network. I thought what he did with that was really incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, of course. That's how I met him. I met him pitching a podcast,
Uh huh.
and downstairs in the basement of the creek at Cave Comedy Radio and everything.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, it's amazing with Last Podcast Network and everything that they've been able to do. It's great. I mean, I do a podcast with my husband now. Obviously, we're talking about No Dogs in Space, but
Yeah.
he just, it's just this amazing thing. I mean, he definitely is the driving force in so many ways. And I can say that now that I work with him.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's gotten a lot of help from his buddies, Henry and Ben, and their roundtable gentlemen, and
Yeah.
everybody from that crew. They're so great too. But it definitely, yeah, when I met him and then we started dating like a year later, he was definitely just like a guy living in Bushwick who was trying really hard to get this podcast off the ground,
Uh-huh.
and could barely afford health insurance, or probably didn't even have it, I think, at first when I first met him.
Yeah.
And then just they were able to grow out of the basement and then have their own office, their own studio, and like grow into that, and then go bi-coastal. Now there's a studio in LA and one here in New York that's like down the street from our house. So it's amazing, and I was able to see that grow because when we first started dating, we were both like around the same, I'm not gonna say level, but we're both the same kind of like broke kids who'd be like, let's
Yeah.
just go to happy hour and then we'll leave at 6 o'clock when drinks get too expensive.
Yeah. Like
kind of
any of
people.
us, we're all just kind of like trying to get something going. Like they're
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And just hang out and do whatever and work a lot. And so, and then I got to see the show really grow into what it became. And it's amazing. It really is. I had front row tickets. I had no idea I was going to see, which is also really good in the sense of, I was already podcasting, and if anything, I've learned so much, especially from my husband, and I like to think like he learned a little bit of, stuff from me in some ways, not in podcasting, obviously. He cannot be taught. He knows, but we ended up complimenting each other a lot, and also a lot of it is a group effort, meetings and friends, and just not just having like one guy just come up with everything, because that doesn't really work. It's a good collective kind of hive mind that you have going on, and people disagreeing and people at the end arguing about this, but then, hey, we're all friends and let's have a beer or whatever. This is all fun. We're in business together. This is life. And if anything, it's such a part of our normal lives that we don't even see it as any other way but just normal, I guess.
Oh, totally. And that's spectacular. And so it's like, because when I see stuff like that, I think, oh, okay, it's possible. Like there's a path in the grass I can follow, and it's inspiring to me as well, to see people I know, like, because again, from back in those same trenches of like like telling, like putting my name in a bucket, putting our names in a bucket, and then like eating rice and beans while we tell like jokes and stories in the basement at the creek, and then to see where that goes is very cool. And then how did No Dogs in Space come about? I was very excited to see that you got that nice mention in the Hollywood Reporter. That's awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's No Dogs in Space, it was pretty much an idea that came out like over a year and a half ago. My husband wanted to do he was my boyfriend at the time. We'd been living together for a few years. We've been together for like 5 years at this point. And he wanted to do a music podcast as like kind of a passion project. And he asked me one day, just kind of like, do you want to be my co-host? It kind of makes sense. I mean, when we first started dating, like we would go to shows together. I mean, we can't anymore now, but we would we would do that all the time, and send each other like playlists and things like that. And we obviously had we enjoyed the same kind of music, most of all. So I said, yeah, okay. And so we started working on it. It took us like 8 months to get it right, because it was a lot of like, how do we do this? What format do we want? We were recording an episode and we're like, yeah, we're never going to show that to anybody. We're going to have to start over. We recorded like 4 episodes until we decided to redo the whole thing. And it took a long time for us to figure out like how we should work together and live together and then get married. And we planned a wedding while launching this podcast all at the same time. And let me tell you, the getting married was the easiest thing ever compared to starting a
The
podcast.
podcast.
It
And-
really was.
oh, and how long have you guys been married?
About, oh no, it's only been a little over a year.
A little over a
Yeah.
year. So did you get to have like a real wedding in the after times? Because COVID wrecked my wife and I's original wedding.
Oh, really? Oh, no. Yeah, we were like the last wedding
Oh,
before. It was
really?
November of 2019.
Oh,
So
great.
so it was right before. So we were like the last big event where we all came to see each other
Uh huh.
out of all our friends, and then everything hit. But what happened? Did you guys get to have a wedding at all?
We I'll tell you the whole story. We were supposed to get married May 23rd of last year, and then around my birthday we were it started looking like, oh, okay, this might not be happening. And then our original venue closed. We were going to get married at the Brooklyn Cider House in Bushwick, and then you couldn't get a marriage license because the physical building where the bureau is, it was closed. So my wife has a lot of connections in local New York politics and kind of starts lobbying to make it available online, gets some press write-ups for, like, not so much for us, like, of course for us as well, but there's like people who are like uh whose loved ones were like getting sick and then they couldn't get to them in the hospital, like that kind of stuff. So she was
Oh,
also doing it for those people. And then we eventually get the marriage license. And then you have, I think 90 days. I think it's, you have a certain time frame that it's good. So we eventually ended up getting, having our legal wedding ceremony on September 9th uh, on the boardwalk in Long Island City.
aw.
Near
That's still it's very sweet. You guys did it your own way.
we certainly did, but the hilarious thing is because we still have plans that we'll have like work. I'm calling it the post pandemic party. That's when we'll have like the what we originally planned. But the funny thing is we have like a lot of we have like commemorative things with our original date on it. So I think the joke is we're gonna celebrate the what would have been the original day, the legal ceremony, and then whatever day we get to have the post pandemic party. So we're gonna have like three anniversaries.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's perfect. I like it. I like all of it.
yeah. It
Yeah,
was it
do
was
it.
yeah. It ended up being pretty cool. My friend Sam Z, who's also a comic, he was the officiant, and it was just him, my friends, our friends Chris and Cindy and their 2-year old, her parents, and our friend Dom who took video.
Oh, you see, now that sounds like fun too. That's like a nice intimate wedding. Man, sometimes I mean, I'm glad that we had our friends and family there and stuff like that, but that I don't know, there's something so informal and so less exhausting
Uh huh.
that you can kind of focus on, well, on the important thing.
Hmm.
So so that's cool. That's very cool. You guys had a good time? Did you guys go out to eat or something?
Yeah, we went and there's this great pizza place in Long Island City called BB's. We went and had dinner there on the patio.
Oh, well, that's great. Happy 3 anniversaries coming up.
Thank you, Carolina, and and I'm very excited to see like all of the success with the podcast. It's a great show. I really enjoy listening to it. Like I learned a lot of stuff about the Ramones that I wouldn't have, and I'm very excited to continue listening to more of it. And then and what do you think? Who do you want to cover for the next season?
Oh, well, we're gonna do like a little mini series thing because we've been jumping around. We want to find like a big name. I think we at first we thought of David Bowie, like something that would be like a long,
Uh huh.
mini series kind of like thing. But we're gonna go. I think we might go with someone else that's supposed to be a surprise or something. But really, it's kind of like we can't decide. And then
Gotcha.
season two will be mostly alternative '90s, which
Ooh.
will be. I don't know if it's going to be easier than punk music. I can't. I always think the next thing is always easier, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always ends up being harder every time I do anything. I'm always like, no, this seems easy because I kind of lived the '90s, so I get it. But
Mm-hmm.
we want to cover Nirvana,
Yep.
Rage Against the Machine, lots of bands that we really like growing up, and just a different kind of like rock music, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. And I have ideas to do all kinds of different music because we've been doing punk for a year. We're not
Uh-huh.
a punk podcast, even though that's like predominantly what we love. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to do Mozart one day. Like that would be
Mm-hmm.
cool. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm good enough, or we're ready to do that yet. Maybe we need a little bit more practice to like do like the real the real greats, I guess, so to speak. So maybe with a little bit more experience, we can like tackle like the real great projects that we really want to do. But it will be mostly rock based, of course, because I I mean we can't really like tell people about jazz if we really don't know too much about it.
Exactly. No, no, totally. I'm very excited to see that. I have a hypothesis. Not for, this is more so for like early, maybe late '90s, early 2000s. I have a hypothesis for when, because I feel like at a certain point, rock music became predominantly uh, like middle of the country, like red state music culture compared to the coasts,
Oh,
like new metal, like the new metal
oh
era.
yeah, yeah. Remember that? Yeah, that was like a thing. I think that's still a little bit of a thing to this day, but I'm not
It's
too aware
coming.
of it.
There's a new metal like revival happening right now. I won't go too deep into it because this could be another like couple hours of a podcast. But I'll just say my hypothesis, and I plan to, if I ever get Finn McKenty from that YouTube channel on the show, I'll run this by him. I think the reason that happened is because of the band Drowning Pool. Do you remember that
Yes.
song "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor"?
Yes.
So the reason I think that started to happen is because I think it became a somewhat widely known fact that soldiers during the Iraq War would play that song through the speaker system in their tanks.
Oh, I think I've heard something about that. That sounds familiar.
I don't know if maybe it was mentioned on in like Fahrenheit 9/11 or something like, but I definitely remember hearing that somewhere, and I think that's where like the cultural schism started to happen.
Okay. I see. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens next. I mean, as we talked about this in the episode that's coming out tonight or tomorrow morning,
Mm-hmm.
is that punk and rock music, it's always going to go in different directions in all that sense, and the next punk thing might not sound anything like rock music. It might be something completely different, but that's a good thing, because it's
Yes.
for the kids, made by the kids. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so like give us something completely different, and that's totally fine. The new metal is not that's not necessarily my thing. I mean, at least fashion wise, it was never my thing.
Yeah, it's
I
a very specific thing. I
Yeah.
It was sort of, I had a couple years and then I kind of like, I just got less angry and I didn't need it anymore. But I can't wait to hear you guys. Cause I also love like your chemistry. Like you have good back and forth and like those years of being in the trenches, like very quick with the quick laugh on the show, which I enjoy listening to as well. But I
Oh,
feel like,
thank you. Thank you so much. We have so much fun doing it. I think that's a big part of it. We have a lot of fun. And that's what the whole basis of every show is, are you having fun? Because if you're not, then man, that sucks for
yeah,
you and everyone else. Yeah.
certainly, and that absolutely comes through. And I think that's a great way to close this out. Is there anything we can plug before we get out of here, Carolina?
Oh, no, I mean, No Dogs in Space. If you want to check it out, that'd be very cool. It's just me and my husband Marcus, and he writes a great narrative, and I do the research, and then together we talk about it, and that's it. We try to keep it very simple as possible. It's so simple that anyone can follow along, even if you haven't even listened to punk a day in your life, which is the whole point of everything.
Absolutely. And if you haven't, you'll go away wanting to like, oh, I want to go listen to that, which is the other biggest compliment I can give a music podcast is, oh, I want to go listen to that, or I didn't know that
Oh,
before.
cool. Yes, exactly. And you know what? A lot of times I learn a lot too while doing the research. I'm like, wow, I didn't know about what these songs were really about. Wow, thank you, Jello Biafra, for enlightening me on all these things that all I was doing was listening to the riffs. And now I'm really reading the lyrics, and boy, are they frightening. So, you know what? I'm learning just sometimes along with the listeners while I'm studying this and writing my half of my part of our show. So thank you so much. That's a really great compliment. I'm going to tell that to Marcus. We're going to take it to heart. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm happy for your success, and it was great to get to talk to you. It's been a while, so it's good to see you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it has been a while. It's been a long time. I haven't seen anyone. Seriously, you're the first person I've seen that's not in my group of 5 friends in like a year. I haven't gone out anywhere. My skin is milky white. I need to go. I'm South American. This shouldn't be the case at all.
Go get some tanning oil and head up to the roof.
I will. I will. Well, one day we'll all meet again. Let's hope.
Yes, it'll. I think we will, and I think that'll be a great day. And thanks for doing the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Wasn't that great? I really enjoyed that conversation. That kind of covers like everything I love to talk about on this show in a lot of different aspects. So thank you to Carolina for your time. You can listen to No Dogs in Space everywhere you get your podcasts. The first season will be wrapping up shortly, and then future seasons will be available in the future. And I look forward to seeing what comes next. That's our show for today, folks. So I appreciate you guys so much for being here. If you enjoyed this and know a friend who might be interested in listening to this show, we are available wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music. Everywhere you get your podcasts, you can listen to Between Awesome and Disaster. You guys are my biggest advocates for telling other people that the show is cool and getting them to check it out. So thank you guys very much. If you want to say hey to me, I'm available on Twitter at Comic Will Carey. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Between Awesome and Disaster, all one word. And I also want to give a shout out to my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Mooney. Thank you so much for your support. I sincerely appreciate it. And if you guys are curious, you can go to patreon.com/awesome disaster. Check out what I've got going on over there. I've written a demo of a new song. And I also recorded an EP in quarantine last year that you can hear there as well before anyone else does. So thank you guys again very much for your time. And let's see where the next few weeks and months takes us. Hopefully in a better direction. But I think, honestly, I feel like that's what's coming. So thank you guys again for being here. And I will see you next time Between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, wear a mask, and fuck fascism.